All right, so we have to deal with this bullshit yet again. I did a video last night and I said, America, please just don't listen to Israel. And I mean, America hasn't hit Iran directly, but America's proxy has hit Iran. And I'm going to be doing my stream tomorrow night, but I just thought that I would do a quick live stream just to talk to you guys about what's happening because this is kind of urgent news. Now, what I would say is there's different reasons as to why this is happening. One is Israel really just wants to hit Iran and start a war, and Israel is hoping that the U.S. is going to join in, or, well, America and Israel are in the middle of negotiations over Gaza, and they're doing these negotiations with Iran and with Hamas, which is an Iranian proxy. And so perhaps Donald Trump and Netanyahu are both playing good cop, bad cop. And the United States, while claiming not to support bombing Iran, while Trump is saying, hey, Israel, don't hit Iran. He tells Netanyahu, hey, don't talk about bombing Iran. While Trump is saying these things, Israel hits Iran. And perhaps the United States and Israel are playing good cop, bad cop, because they're in the middle of negotiations with Iran. And so the United States wants to intimidate Iran through its proxy Israel. That is a possibility, and that's actually quite likely because that observation makes sense, right? America is in the middle of trying to hammer out a deal with the Iranians. And so while Trump is saying, hey, Israel, don't hit Iran, he's pretending to be the good cop who has nothing to do with what's going on. He's got nothing to do with hitting Iran. He has no interest in hitting Iran. And then Israel hits Iran. And then Trump can say, hey, I didn't order this. And then at the same time, they can intimidate Iran through Israel. Right? That's a possibility, right? We really don't know. I mean, right now it's there's a lot of fog going on, and we're gonna find out more details as this whole thing goes on. But who knows, right? We are going to see. Now there are. Now look at this, guys. Look at this. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. Let me just say hi to everyone here, right? Because this is a Friday. It's not a Friday. It's a Thursday night stream, right? Hello, Prince Zachariah, Kenshi, Ezekiel, Alexis. Iran is supposed to be the aggressor here. Not that anyone supports Iran. Iran is supposed to be the aggressor. Okay, but I find it quite amazing how many hospirists are on Twitter right now. I was checking out Twitter, now known as X, before coming on here, and man, oh man, is that place just crawling with hospirists. I think Israel told its little internet army to just flood X, and X is just filled with all these pro-Israel statements, and it's almost as if America right now is pro-war with Iran, right? That's perhaps the impression that you get. But I think the majority of Americans, if push came to shove, would completely object to any sort of boots on the ground war with Iran. I think the vast majority of Americans are against any sort of intervention, especially in the Middle East, because, listen, we've been down this road before. But if you go on X and you see the big army of pro-Israel people, oh man, you would think that we were about to go to war with Iran, right? Or you may think that we're about to go to war with Iran. Looking at all the army of pro-Israel people on X, you would think we're about to go to war. It seems like tons of people in the United States want to go to war with Iran. But this is the perception, right? This is the perception that these people want people to have. This is the perception that they're trying to project. And the thing is that, and I sort of said this in one of my last videos, Israel is an insane asylum of a country. And if you truly, truly support Israel, right? If you're this super pro-Israel person, if you join Israel, Israel will drag you down to destruction. If you look at the previous instances in which the United States did what Israel wanted, it brought us to nothing good. Nothing good. Israel said, we want Saddam Hussein to be removed. Because if we remove Saddam, the world is going to be a better place and we're going to have democracy. So America did what Israel wanted. And the United States ousted out Saddam Hussein. Everybody supported the Iraq War. Initially, Democrats, Republicans, everyone supported the Iraq War. And the Iraq War was being pushed before 9/11. Before 9/11, the Zionists, the people in the Project for the New American Century, also known by its acronym PNAC, were pushing for the Iraq War before 2001, before 9/11. You had people like Paul Wolfowitz and all the rest of these Zionists, pro-Israel Zionists. And they were making up lies about Iraq, saying, oh, Saddam Hussein, Saddam Hussein, he has weapons of mass destruction. And they were trusting some scam artist from Jordan, some scam artist who robbed the Bank of Jordan. I forgot his name, but they used this guy as evidence because he was actually Iraqi. What was his name? Iraqi guy. I forgot his name. But anyway, they used this Iraqi guy who claimed to have had all this intelligence information about Saddam Hussein having weapons of mass destruction. It was all a lie. It was all bullshit. But people ate it up. And what got them more than willing to eat that bullshit up was 9/11. So before 9/11, or I want to say in 1998, the Project for the New American Century was pushing for the Iraq War. And they didn't get what they wanted immediately because there was no need to go to Iraq. And then we had 9/11. And then what happened? All of a sudden, everyone and their grandmother was pro-war. Pro-war. Everybody wanted to go to Iraq. Everyone bought the propaganda, hook, line, and sinker, as they say. And the United States had boots on the ground in Iraq, and it was a big, absolute fuck up, to put it lightly. And what happened? 1 million Iraqis died, thousands of American soldiers dead, IEDs every day, Fallujah, Ramadi, the Triangle of Death, all that craziness. And did the world become a better place? Did the world become a better place because we listened to the Zionists, because we listened to the pro-Israel lunatics? No, the world became even more of a shithole. Because due to the Iraq War, due to the Zionist/Israeli shenanigans, all of a sudden we were hearing about ISIS all the time. ISIS this, ISIS that, beheadings. Look, here's a video of ISIS people drowning people, burning people alive. Look, they burned some poor Jordanian pilot alive in a cage. Look, here's a video of ISIS thugs hanging people from meat hooks. And then Israel was saying, oh, look, ISIS, oh my God, ISIS. Oh, no. Yeah, these are the people. ISIS was the people that Saddam Hussein was killing. Saddam Hussein was killing ISIS. So Israel comes along and says, take them out, because the world will be a better place if you listen to Netanyahu. So the United States and, well, really PNAC and all the pro-Israel people and all the Zionists in the United States supported a war in Iraq. Donald Rumsfeld and all the whole gang, the whole gang. And the world became a less safe place. The world became more chaotic. The world became more unstable. All of a sudden, you had a refugee crisis. Iraqis going to Europe, Syrians going to Europe. Why? Because the instability in Iraq boiled over into Syria. And for decades, the pro-Israel people, Zionists, whatever you want to call them, they were pushing for the ousting of Assad, Bashar al-Assad. So it was Iraq all over again, Iraq 2.0. We backed a bunch of terrorists in Syria. We backed a bunch of terrorists, a bunch of thugs in Syria. And Netanyahu and all the rest of them, the whole gang, the Israelis in Israel and their acolytes in the United States were saying, oh, yes, down with Assad. And they knew damn well what would happen. They knew damn well that if you remove Saddam, it'll cause instability that will boil over into Syria, and that's going to cause even more chaos. And that's exactly what happened. So then you had a refugee crisis. All these hundreds of thousands of Syrians and Iraqis were fleeing to Europe. And then what did that cause? It sparked this horrific ripple effect in Europe where crime went up. All of a sudden you heard about rapes taking place and women getting raped in Germany. And then what did that cause? It had the same cause that Bolshevism caused after World War I. It got people to support Nazis. After World War I, you had Bolsheviks. Bolsheviks were causing problems. In Germany, people supported Adolf Hitler. Israel and all of the Zionists in the United States were pushing for these destructive policies in the Middle East. That caused the refugee crisis. Boom, now we got Nazis in Germany. And now the second biggest party in Germany is the AfD. It's a repackaged Nazi party. And all that bullshit that the Zionists caused, well, we can thank them for this insanity. We can thank all that bullshit for this insanity that we see happening in Europe right now. So it didn't just cause harm in the Middle East. It sparked a ripple effect that acted as a catalyst towards a massive ideological shift in the Western world where all of a sudden the Nazis are popular again. And you have a Nazi party now being the second biggest party in all of Europe. All because Netanyahu and a bunch of his friends in Washington wanted a war in Iraq. And it all goes back to PNAC, and you can say it goes back to 9/11, but you can go even further back than 9/11. You can go back to Project for a New American Century and the neocons and all that stuff. So now we're talking about Iran. And now you have people pushing for war in Iran. On X. If you go to X, you see it. You see it in X, all the lunatics. All the lunatics on X. All of it. When Elon Musk first bought X, it was, everybody was anti-Israel, pro-Iran, pro-Hamas. Now, there seems to be this weird reversal. I'm guessing that the CIA is totally controlling X. So now it's just filled with pro-Israel stuff. Pro-Israel this, pro-Israel that, and it's just all fake. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel organic. It feels very fake. And my guess is that Israel just deployed its finest hospitalists to flood X. And if you go on to X, you may think, wow, look, Americans really want to go to war with Iran, but you would be wrong. Most Americans, the great majority, vast majority of Americans have zero interest in going to some bullshit war in Iran. And you could say, well, Iran is the number one sponsor of terrorism. No, it's not. The number one sponsor of terrorism. You want to know what it is? I'm living in it. It's called the United States. The United States is oh my God. People are so evil. And they're so stupid. And you have these boomers. Oh my God, dude, the boomers are going to bring us down. I'm telling you, the boomers, they are the foundation for all this insanity. I go onto X and all the people who are supporting it's like we're back in 2003 all over again. You see these armies of boomers on X, and a lot of them are boomers. I can see their profile photos. They're freaking boomers. And they're like, well, if Iran gets a nuke, it's going to be our problem. They all have that voice, that boomer voice, evangelical boomer voice. Well, if they get, if Iran gets a nuke, it's going to be our problem. It will be our problem. Oh my God, dude, the boomers, they can be a scourge on the earth. They're going to bring us down. They could actually bring us down. They are the foundation for all this insanity. They were saying the same damn thing about Saddam Hussein. Well, if Saddam Hussein, he's got weapons of mass destruction, and if he got them WODs and WMDs, and it'll become our problem if we don't solve it. If we don't take care of it now. And we look back, and do we say that any of those people were right? We look back, right? We look back at Iraq. We look back at Syria, Libya. And does anyone say, wow, I am so happy we did that. I'm so happy we took out Saddam. I'm so happy we took out Assad. I'm so happy we took out Gaddafi. No one says that. Hell, friggin' Israel is regretting what it did in Syria because they're terrified of Turkey. And they wanted to remove Assad, right? They removed Assad. And now they're scared shitless of Turkey. You guys caused this. You caused this bullshit. And then, oh my God, Obama, here's the one thing good that Obama did. Obama does the Iran deal. He hammers out the Iran deal. And everybody was bitching and complaining about the Iran deal. They were saying, oh my God, look, Obama, he's doing appeasement. All right, it's appeasement with the Iranians. And look, he's doing this Iran deal. And you had I'm trying to remember the name of this agency. You had the International Atomic Energy Agency, International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, coming out saying, hey, look, we have been inspecting Iran's nuclear activities. Iran is following the rules. Iran is following the rules. And then what did all these Zionists online say? They're lying. The IAEA, they're a bunch of liars. They were saying this kind of bullshit. They're anti-Semitic liars. I don't believe them for 1 second. So then Trump comes along, and because he was getting funded by Sheldon Adelson, Donald Trump pulls out of the Iran deal. And when Donald Trump pulled out of the Iran deal, I was writing articles saying it's a bad idea. I was right. And I never, ever retracted what I wrote because they were all these people, these assholes, boomer assholes, attacking me online, I remember. I was writing articles, I was doing videos on it, and all these schmucks were attacking me. Oh, the Iran deal. You believe in that? Oh, the Iran deal's a bad idea. Iran deal's a bad idea because, they're appeasing Iran. This is appeasement. This is just like Hitler. This is just like Neville Chamberlain doing appeasement with Adolf Hitler. This is exactly what that is. And I kept telling people, the IAEA, it's hard to kind of remember that acronym. It's like EA Sports. The IAEA was saying Iran's following the rules. Iran's following the rules. Iran's following the rules. They're all liars. So everyone's a liar except Israel. Everyone's a liar except for Israel. So now Donald Trump is the president again. And what is Donald Trump trying to do? Donald Trump is trying to reverse the bullshit that he caused when he was president the first time. Now he wants a deal with the Iranians. Wait, hold on, Mr. Trump. You pulled out of the Iran deal when you were president the first time. What happened? Oh, I'll tell you what happened. Sheldon Adelson. is what happened. Sheldon Adelson told Donald Trump to pull out of the Iran deal. Sheldon Adelson and that whole pro-Israel gang that was surrounding Donald Trump during his first term, they were telling him to pull out of the Iran deal. And I can just imagine the conversations between Sheldon Adelson and Donald Trump. Sheldon Adelson calls up Donald Trump and he says, pull out of the Iran deal right now. Pull out right now. No, you have to pull out. Iran's going to get a bomb. They're going to get a bomb. If you don't pull out, they're going to get a bomb. Hold on. Doesn't it make sense that if we want to inspect Iran and make sure they don't make a nuclear bomb, doesn't it make sense that we actually have a deal with them so that we can have the IAEA inspect them? No, pull out right now, pull out. But wouldn't that just, like, nobody had any logic during that whole time. Wouldn't it make sense that if you wanted to inspect their nuclear activities, that you would have a deal with them so that you could inspect them? Wouldn't it be a bad idea just to get out of the Iran deal and cut off Iran, thus isolating them so that they could then start enriching uranium to dangerous levels without any sort of oversight? No one had any logic. No one had any sort of foresight. No one had any sort of rationality. It's insanity. Do you know why there was all this insanity during Trump's first term? Because Donald Trump was following Israel. And Israel is an insane country. I don't give a shit what anyone tells me. Listen, my father was in the pro-Israel movement. I hung out with Zionists for a huge chunk of my life. I was around Zionists all the time. They are insane people. They're lunatics. I wish I could tell you guys the personal stories from my own life so that you guys can understand where I'm coming from. They're insane. They're super, what's the term? They're super reactive. They're super compulsive. Everything is 5 minutes to midnight. Obama just did a deal with Iran. Bad idea. Pull out right now. And I could just imagine Sheldon Adelson calling up Donald Trump and telling him, pull out of this, pull out of the Iran deal. Pull out. No, pull out. Oh, okay, Sheldon pulls out of the Iran deal. And now Donald Trump is trying to hammer out a deal with Iran. And what's Trump trying to say? Oh, well, we can do a deal with Iran. And then Trump even said, maybe we can let the Iranians have limited amounts of enriched uranium. And that was the Iran deal. And so if you look at every single time we listen to Israel with Iraq, we took out Saddam Hussein. Iran rose up and Israel said, oh my God, Iran, no! Iran rose up, oh my God. That was the result of your bullshit and all the bullshit from your friends in the United States. PNAC, Frank Gaffney, Paul Wolfowitz, all these schmucks. So we listened to Israel, and then we got ISIS, and we got Iran, and with Iran, we got what? Hezbollah, all this stuff. So now Israel is the victim, and everyone else is Israel's enemy, and everyone's a liar except for Israel. So Syria is there, and Syria is an ally of Iran. So Netanyahu says, oh my God, we got to remove Assad. Bad idea. And everybody with a half a brain, including myself, was saying, bad idea. Don't listen to Israel. They are compulsive lunatics. Don't listen to them. They are a 5 minutes to midnight zombie country. Everything with those people is just, oh, it's the end of the world. And now it makes sense as to why Israel invest so much effort to maintain the evangelical Zionist movement in the United States. Because as long as American Christians are talking about, praising Israel and how there needs to be a third temple so that Jesus can come back, evangelicals are going to support Israel no matter what, as long as they have that insane apocalyptic mentality. But everybody was saying, don't remove Assad. Bad idea. And Assad is gone. He was removed early this year. Netanyahu comes along and he says, you can thank me. And then what happened? Not too long after that. And I said it the night that Assad was removed. I said, goodbye, Assad, Everyone say hello to the Neo-Ottoman Empire. That's what I said the night that it happened. And what happened? Just days after, Turkey is in Syria. They're in Damascus. Turkish intelligence is crawling all over Syria. Israel was in southern Syria. And then Israel was saying, oh my God, look at Turkey. This is so bad. Please, Russia, save us. America, save us. Israel is an insane country. Now, if you were to listen to an insane person, right? If an insane person told you to do things, would you listen to that person? Of course not. But let's say that this insane person is so good at acting normal that he manages to convince you to do things at his behest. Would doing any sort of those actions, would fulfilling any of the requests by the crazy person do any good? Would fulfilling any of the requests from the crazy person do any good for you? No. You'd probably end up in prison because he'd want you to buy drugs for him or something like that. So, listening to a crazy person will lead you to destruction. So why in the hell are we listening to Israel? Now you say, how do you know Israel's crazy? Oh, I don't know. Look at all the freaking requests they made in the past and look at the destruction that the fulfillment of those requests caused. Iraq, Syria, Libya. And now we're going to listen to them again? Really? We want to listen to Israel again. And what happened? What happened when Biden was president? Iran hit Israel, and Israel was hitting Iran. Remember, they were going back and forth with each other, back and forth, tit for tat, right? I think Iran hit Israel, Israel hit Iran, and they just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The Biden administration came out and said, we're not going to get involved. And I believe that one day the United States is going to get so sick and tired of this, and the American populace is going to have it up to here with Israel and with wars in the Middle East, because by this point, Tucker Carlson and his way of thinking will have already become the preponderating paradigm, the dominant way of thinking. It's going to come to a point when the United States is just going to pull the plug on Israel. And America's going to say, you know what, Israel, you want to go to war with Iran, you want to do all these wars, go ahead. We're not going to get involved. We're not going to get involved. Because Israel, you're crazy. And you see, Israel has this idea that they're going to dominate the Middle East, and America's always going to be by our side. And I've said this many times. Israel will destroy itself in the end. Do you know, it's very interesting. Israel, do you know what Israel reminds me of? Who invented Zyklon B? Who invented Zyklon B? Fritz Haber invented Zyklon B. He invented Zyklon B, and the Germans would eventually use Zyklon B to kill the Jews. So Fritz Haber was Jewish. A Jewish guy invented Zyklon B. And that very invention by Fritz Haber would be used to destroy his own people. Israel is Fritz Haber. Israel has been pushing for things that eventually will lead to the destruction of its own people. Israel is Fritz Haber. Fritz Haber is the perfect image of Israel. He should be. Everyone says, oh, Theodor Herzl. No. Fritz Haber needs to be the icon of Israel. That's Israel. Remove Saddam Hussein. That led to the rise of Iran, that led to ISIS. That led to more instability in the Middle East. Israel is terrified of Iran. Remove Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad is removed. He's gone. That has led to the rise of Turkey. And now Israel is terrified of Turkey. Every decision, everything that Israel pushes has been really leading up to its own destruction. And now it wants a war with Iran. And that'll cause even more chaos and instability. And it's not going to make Israel any safer. It's not going to make the world a better place. If Iraq and Syria and Libya are a lesson. And so what Israel pushes for will eventually lead to its destruction. That's just the bottom line. Israel, and I've said this many times, Israel is Judas. Judas is the symbol of Israel. How do I know this? Because the word Judah, what is the word Judah? Judas means what? It means Judah. Judah is what? Israel. All Israelites today, all Jewish Israelis are from the tribe of Judah. Or they have some sort of connection to the tribe of Judah. At least the great majority of them do. So Judas, being a symbol of Judah, tells us something about Israel. And what did Judas do? Judas said, I'm going to kill Jesus and I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get my 33 pieces of silver. And then what happened? Judas destroyed himself. He destroyed himself. And the Son of God, the Messiah, was nailed onto a cross. And what happened in the end? What happened in the end was tens of thousands of Judeans were crucified. So they screamed, crucify him, crucify him. And they themselves got crucified. Judas said, I'm going to kill Christ, take my money, I'll be rich. And Judas destroyed himself. Haman said, I'm going to kill all the Jews, and I'm going to have Mordecai hanging from a noose. And then what happened? Haman found himself hanging from the very noose that he made for Mordecai. All of these stories are a reflection of Israel. It's a crazy country. And if you listen to Israel, if you do things at the behest of Israel, if you submit to the demands of Israel, Israel will drag you into destruction. That's the bottom line. And there's even a verse about this in the Bible, the book of Zechariah. All those who obsess over Jerusalem will be cut to pieces. And what do we have here in the United States? When Donald Trump was president the first time, he said, oh, the capital of Israel is not Tel Aviv, it's Jerusalem. What was that? What was that? That was American Christian Zionism right there. Schmuckabee and all the rest of the schmucks were for it. And that was this obsession with Israel. And what does the book of Zechariah say? All those who uplift Jerusalem will be cut asunder, will be cut to pieces. And it says, I will make Jerusalem into a trembling cup for the nations. Meaning people are going to get drunk off this thing called Jerusalem. The Crusades got drunk. Christian Zionists get drunk. Muslims get drunk off of it. And it leads to what? Violence. Sectarian violence. And now it's just insanity. It's just complete insanity. Did World War III just start? I don't know. I'm not going to say World War III has started. No one really knows. I recall Noam Chomsky saying that all post-World War II presidents would be hanged if the Nuremberg principles were upheld. I mean, I agree, actually. I don't disagree. Living in the Appalachian Mountains, one could feel as though they are watching us. I don't know what that means. People are crazy. You're right. They're nuts. Totally nuts. Now check this out. Here's an article from Haaretz. Look at this. Israel launches preemptive strikes across Iran. U.S. says we are not involved. Why is America saying we're not involved? Because America doesn't want to do a war with Iran. That's the reason why. And Israel has been pushing the United States to join Israel in a war with Iran. And it's just so damn exhausting. Now, like I said, Trump and Netanyahu could be playing good cop, bad cop, because Trump right now is in the middle of a negotiation with Iran. So maybe he wants to scare the Iranians by using Israel as a proxy to hit Iran. Who knows? Who knows? But the United States doesn't want to do a war with Iran. The United States doesn't want to put boots on the ground in a war with Iran because the Iraq war is it's something that is a blight on our history. And we don't want to repeat it. Bottom line, we don't want to repeat it. And Donald Trump told Netanyahu, listen, stop talking about bombing Iran. Just stop. And Donald Trump said they're not going to drag us into a war. Now, there is another possibility. There's another possible scenario that's taking place, and that is Israel decided to ignore the United States' request not to hit Iran. Or Israel decided just to ignore the United States and just hit Iran anyway. But the United States told Israel, listen, if you want to hit Iran, we're not going to get involved. And we just ask that you do a very limited strike. And perhaps that's what's happening. What an evil day. The whole day has been cursed. War keeps Netanyahu in power and out of jail. Yup, absolutely. Yeah, he thrives on war. Listen, without war, Israel will tear itself apart without war. I truly believe that. Because they were on the verge of tearing themselves apart before October the 7th. Do you guys remember all of the massive demonstrations that were all over Israel? Massive demonstrations against Netanyahu. And then what happened? October the 7th happened, and all that just kind of went to the back burner. It's coming back, don't get me wrong. There's still tons of people who hate Netanyahu, and there's still a huge anti-Netanyahu movement. But without war, Israel will... I'm telling you right now, if you want Israel to go into a civil war, just get rid of all the Palestinians. If they get rid of all the Palestinians, Israel will destroy itself. Because at that point, Israel will have no enemy to unite the country against. Because Israel likes to say, okay, we're united against terrorism. So let's gather together, guys, and let's fight the Palestinians because they want to exterminate us. And so that keeps people united to a great extent. If you get rid of the Palestinians, you get rid of Hezbollah, you get rid of all these threats, Israel will quickly deteriorate into a civil war. Because then the question wouldn't be, okay, what do we do with the terrorist? The question wouldn't be, what do we do about the threat of terrorism? The question wouldn't be, how do we deal with all these external threats, or how do we deal with the Arab threat within Israel? The question would then become, what should Israel look like, and what kind of country should Israel be? And then you'll have the liberals saying, well, Israel should be a liberal democracy and it should be secular. And then you'll have the hardliners saying, no, Israel needs to be a religious, ethno-nationalist country. And so because there would be no worry about terrorism, and because there would be no discussion about what to do about terrorism, the entire discussion, the entire political discourse would be reduced to whose vision of Israel is going to dominate. Which vision for the state of Israel is going to become the dominating reality for the country. And so the threat will no longer be Arabs or Muslims. The threat is going to be the liberal Israeli, or on the other side of the spectrum, the existential threat would be the hard right. So the liberals will say the biggest threat to Israel is the hard right. And the hard right would say the same thing about the liberals. Civil war. Civil war, you see. So let's check this out here. Now, guys, I'm going to be streaming tomorrow, and by tomorrow, we're going to have more information on all this stuff. And who knows? Iran's going to do a counterstrike on Israel. I mean, they're already expecting it. The Israelis are already saying that they're bracing for Iran to hit Israel. So that's going to happen more than likely. I'll just put it that way. More than likely, it's going to happen. So it's gonna be a crazy Friday stream, and we're probably gonna get a bunch of hospitalists on here. They're gonna say, "What are you talking about? It's gonna be our problem. It's gonna be." Just recently went back to church. Becoming Orthodox sounds like a good time. Los Angeles madness. Yeah, I know. LA, yeah, Mexicans, yeah, okay, throwing rocks, okay. It all helps Donald Trump. I mean, I don't like those rioters, but it's not an existential threat to the country. I just put it that way. It's a bunch of Mexican anarchists, and they're going to be forgotten soon. I'll just put it that way. Do you think Russia is going to give Iran some of their nukes? No, I don't think so. Why would Russia do that? Russia has no interest in destroying Israel? This is an Iranian thing. Yeah, Israel is a military-industrial complex, 100%. 100%. So it says here, tonight, let's see, I'll make this bigger. Tonight, Israel took unilateral action against Iran. We are not involved in strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. So, Mr. Rubio is saying the United States is not involved in this at all. And this is exactly the type of rhetoric, this is exactly the type of language that was coming out of the Biden administration. They said, we got nothing to do with this, and they told Israel, listen, if you want to go to war with Iran, we're not going to get involved. We're just not going to get involved. What about the fact that nothing ever happens? Nothing ever happens, and then something eventually does happen. And the reality is that nothing happens for the longest time, and then it seems as if the biggest changes in the world happen within a matter of days. But the reality is that the biggest shifts that we see in the world are planned behind the curtains, and the signs of the coming of these massive changes in the world are all for there to see. They're there for everyone to see. It's just that people don't want to pay attention. And then if you tell people about the presaging signs of what is to come, they then come out and say, well, nothing happens. Yeah, but you're ignoring the signs. You're ignoring the signs. And then when something does happen, people are going to say, well, why didn't we see this coming? Well, all the signs were there. You know, after World War I, Hitler was talking about taking over Germany, and Hitler was a raving fanatic. And there were people saying, listen, the Jews are going to be in danger. And no one really believed those people. No one really believed those watchmen on the wall, so to speak. And you could have said after World War I, listen, nothing's going to happen. That's not going to happen. But all the signs were there. You know, all the signs were there. So if you look at all of the biggest events in history, in retrospect, it seemed as if nothing was happening before those events commenced, but all the signs were manifesting. All the signs were there for people to see. All the red lights were there. In light of events, how does this reconcile with the church being spiritual? I don't want to talk about this. I really don't. I don't want to talk about spiritual Israel. How does this reconcile with spiritual Israel? I don't know. You tell me. Um, yeah. So it says here, Israel advised us that they believe the action was necessary for its self-defense. President Trump and the administration have taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran should not target U.S. interests and personnel. So they killed some Iranian official. Iranian state media confirmed on Friday the killing of Iran's Revolutionary Guards commander Hossein Salami in an Israeli strike. The report added that nuclear scientists Fereydun Abbasi Davani and Mohammed Mahdi Tehranji were also killed. Israel struck Natanz nuclear facility missile base. It says here the Hezbollah affiliated El Maidin News reported that the Natanz nuclear facility was among the sites struck by Israel, adding that several missile bases near Tehran and Kermanshah were also hit. Iranian television reported that loud explosions were heard in Natanz and that smoke plumes were seen rising from the nuclear sites. There we go. I mean, listen, last year they were hitting each other, and then I said what? What did I say? I said there's going to be a duration of peace, and then it's going to resume itself, right? This conflict between Iran and Israel is going to resume, and we see it resuming. So it's only going to escalate. This is not going to end. And eventually there's going to be a war, a serious war between Israel and Iran, and then it's just going to be very bloody. And you're eventually going to have Holocaust Part 2. That's what's going to happen. What about the Nazi-Zionist agreement? What about it? Tell me about it. Educate us. Educate me. That sounds good, Mr. Harris. Prego. Ugh, that stuff's nasty. That's disgusting. I mean, if you like it, all power to you, but I'm not too crazy about Prego sauce. Israel reached the point of no return. We had no choice but to attack Iran. We set out on the offensive because the time had come. We had reached the point of no return, said IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir. This is a fateful operation to prevent an existential threat from an enemy who seeks our destruction. We cannot wait for another moment to act. We have no choice. We are going to battle together with one goal in mind, to bring a safer future to the state of Israel. Okay. All right, good luck with that, Israel. This is all just leading to your own destruction. Israeli security sources say that in addition to extensive attacks by the Israeli Air Force, the Mossad led a series of covert counterterrorism operations deep in Iran. These operations were intended to damage Iran's strategic missile system and its air defense capabilities, the sources said. I am genuinely asking, are you saying it is a bad idea to attack those main people? Genuinely asking, I'm confused in this moment. Yes, I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea to escalate these situations tremendously, and I think it's a terrible idea for the United States to get involved. If Israel wants to do this, that's their decision, but I think it's a terrible idea to just do another major war in the Middle East. It's not going to lead to anything good. And I think Israel is just going to be accelerating its own destruction. I think eventually that's what's going to happen. And remember, Donald Trump told Israel, let's not do anything. Don't do anything to Iran until we actually hammer out a deal. Because a deal is better than a war. And Israel is just rushing to a war. And they're further escalating the entire situation. Oh boy. Anyway. Should probably get going. How long have I been talking? 50 minutes I've been talking. So, more than likely, Iran is going to do a counterstrike on Israel. And they're going to go back and forth. And look, Israel right now is working with a militia in Gaza that's affiliated with ISIS. They're literally working with terrorists. But they're the good guys. And we have to get involved in a war to support Israel to fight terrorism when Israel is backing terrorism. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Do you think Israel is being paranoid and therefore attacks? I think Israel is a crazy country that made terrible decisions and pushed for terrible things, terrible policies in the past. And for that reason, it's in the situation now where you have a powerful Iran in the Middle East. And so right now, it's trying to do damage control against this Frankenstein that it helped to create. Eventually, there's going to be there's going to be a war between the Iranians and the Israelis. But the United States had the Iran deal. We were working with the Iranians. And the United States pulled out of the Iran deal, showed complete bad faith to the Iranians. So why in the hell should Iran do a deal with the United States if it knows very well that America is just going to pull out of the deal anyway? And who pushed for withdrawing out of the Iran deal? Israel did. Is Israel being paranoid? I don't know, to be honest with you. I really don't know. All I'm saying is we're in this situation because we listened to Zionists. And now Israel wants to drag us into another destructive war in the Middle East that's going to lead to nothing good. It's not going to lead to a better Middle East. It's not going to lead to more stability. Will China and Russia get involved? I don't think so, no. To take Taiwan? I don't think so. I don't think China is going to send troops to Taiwan. I could be wrong, but that's exactly what the United States would want, right? That's exactly what the United States wants. The United States wants China to invade Taiwan so that they can have a reason to strike the Chinese using our Japanese proxy. So I'm not sure. They could. I don't know. I doubt it, though. I'll just put it that way. I doubt that China will try to take Taiwan. If you look at what led up to this situation, you can go back to the Cold War. What happened in the Cold War? The United States overthrew the president or the prime minister of Iran. His name was Mohammad Mossadegh. He was a major Iranian leader. The United States, the CIA, riled up the Islamic fundamentalists in Iran to go against Mossadegh. And the CIA would do things like put a bomb in a mosque to get the fundamentalists riled up because they wanted the Iranian people to overthrow Mossadegh. And eventually Mossadegh was overthrown. The Shah was in power. The Shah was ruling Iran. And what happened to the Shah? The Shah eventually got cancer. The United States said, oh, we have the best medical service for cancer, the best medical treatment for cancer. So they said, let's bring the Shah to New York City. And there were people in the United States, Jimmy Carter included, who said, if you bring the Shah to New York City, it is going to cause riots in Iran and the American embassy will be in danger. That's what was said. That was the warning. And everyone ignored the warning. They brought the Shah to New York City. Boom. There was a revolution. The embassy, the U.S. embassy in Tehran was taken over. And then you had the American embassy hostage crisis. And the Islamists took over. The Islamists took over with the help of the United States. And then what happened right after? What happened during the hostage crisis? The United States and Israel were doing arms deals with the Iranians. And then after the hostages were released, Israel did arms deals with the Iranians because we wanted to help the Iranians kill the Iraqis. And we were making money on both sides. So we helped create this monster. And now we're going to sit here and act like, oh, we have nothing to do with this. It's all just Iran. We got to this mess because of our terrible and destructive and compulsive decisions. So why should I trust the judgment of two insane countries, the United States and Israel? Both countries are insane and compulsive. Do you think it would be a good idea for young men to go to college, even if we didn't plan on to before to avoid being drafted? I have no. I don't think. I don't think the United States is going to put boots on the ground in Iran. I just don't. I don't believe that. It's because American military interventionism is so unpopular nowadays. Even if they did a draft, people will rebel. Might serve his own people on a silver platter if he is supporting other jihadists. That's what he's been doing for years. The United States, okay, Israel said the PLO is the big threat, so they backed Hamas. Now they're saying Hamas is the big threat, so now they're destroying Hamas. So now Israel is doing what? It's following the same damn pattern that it did in the past. It is now backing an ISIS affiliate group to go against Hamas. So if Hamas is gone, and let's say the Palestinians aren't ethnically cleansed yet, and let's say Israel then props up this ISIS affiliate group to rule Gaza, how is that going to work out? How is Israel going to be perpetuating more stability and peace by backing an ISIS affiliate? But we're going to actually listen and abide by the judgment of this insane country, which has continuously and still continues to make decisions and to push for policies that lead to its own demise. And if we get dragged down, if we allow ourselves to be dragged by Israel, we're going to lead ourselves to our own demise. Isaiah 21. I don't think the Japanese are so fond of the Americans. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Let's see here. So the Israelis they are expecting a response from Iran. UN watchdog rules that Iran is not complying. Well, no shit. No shit, the IAEA is going to say that Iran's not complying. Why should they comply? They were complying under the Iran deal. And then they say, well, you couldn't trust the IAEA. But now we're trusting the IAEA when they say that Iran is not complying? Really? Make it make sense. Before, the IAEA were a bunch of liars. Now we're listening to the IAEA. I thought they were a bunch of anti-Semitic liars. Of course Iran's not going to comply. They made a deal with the Americans, and then we pulled out of the deal, and we gave the big fat middle finger to the Iranians because we were listening to a bunch of Ben Shapiros. And now people still want us to listen to all the Ben Shapiros and the Mark Levines of the world, even though it was the Ben Shapiros and the Mark Levines of the world who brought us to this disaster. It's like we're following blind men, and they led us into a ditch, and the blind men keep saying, just keep digging, and we listen. That's what we're going to do if we listen to these lunatics. Yeah. It's like blind men told us. It's like they led us into a ditch, and then they say, take these shovels, keep digging, keep digging, keep digging. And then we say, well, for how long? Just keep doing it. And then we wonder why we're just getting ourselves deeper and deeper into the ditch. That's going to be us if we listen to this insane country. And I guess we have a lot to talk about for tomorrow. Do you think Russia and China will help Iran? No. I don't think so. You don't see a false flag coming. I don't understand. Do you think Israel is serious about the Samson option? I haven't. For something like that right now, I don't know. I don't know. Let me see something here. You know, the only way that I could see Americans getting enthusiastic about boots on the ground in Iran is if we have another 9/11. But even if we got another 9/11, let's say another 9/11 happens, because of the internet and because of the nature of the internet right now and because of X and those types of websites and because conspiracy theories are so popular nowadays, a lot of people would say that the whole thing is just a giant psyop. And then you would still have tons of people not wanting to give in to this demand that we should become militaristic for another war. Yeah. But you see, even if we had, let's say, even if we get another 9/11, I don't think, I still think tons of Americans would say no to a war because tons of people would be saying it's just a false flag. I mean, look at COVID. How many Americans rebelled against COVID because they said that COVID was just a giant false flag? So it's more difficult to get people to be conformists nowadays because of the internet. Uh huh. Okay. Yeah. So Donald Trump was urging for diplomacy with Iran. And let's see how Donald Trump responds to this. My suspicion is that Trump is going to say we had nothing to do with this. That's my suspicion because Marco Rubio is already saying this. So by tomorrow morning, there's going to be a lot more information on this, and perhaps Iran will have already done its counterstrike on Israel. Regardless of what happens, there's going to be a lot to talk about for our stream. Do you think the Elon debacle was just Trump trying to show that Elon is not pulling his strings? Possibly, but when Elon called, see, I thought the whole thing was an act, and then I saw that Elon called Trump basically a predator. He said that Donald Trump's name is on the Epstein list. That's shots fired. And when I saw that, I said, you know what? I don't think this is just a game. I think this is serious because you don't make that sort of accusation if you're just playing around. You know, what time will you go live? It'll be the same time. It'll be 5 p.m. Eastern time. You'll see the announcement on my channel. You'll see the thumbnail on my channel that's going to say what time it'll start, and then once it starts, you just click on the thumbnail, and then it'll bring you right to the stream. Let me see here. Let's check out X. Let's see footage of the strike or the strikes. Let me see something real quick. There's Iran. I think we just clicked on this.
اینجا رو زدن، اینجا رو هم زدن، این لویزانم زدن، پشتم زدن، پشت لویزانم زدن.
What can I say, guys? We can never rest, right? I mean, we can never rest from this insanity. We can never rest. We can't just have a year where we don't hear about wars and rumors of wars. It just never ends. Earlier this year, it was what? It was Pakistan versus India, and the whole Ukraine versus Russia Slavic tribal war is still going on. Then last year, it was Iran versus Israel again, and they were both bombing each other. And then there was the whole Gaza slaughter, and that's still going on. I mean, we can just never rest. And we're hearing about Germany, of all countries, talking about reviving its military strength and getting nuclear weapons. We can never rest. You know, we can never rest. I was playing video games when I heard the news about this insanity. I was playing video games, guys. I was playing Bannerlord, which is one of the greatest games ever made. And then I hear the news. Israel just hit Tehran. And I'm thinking, I can never rest. I can never rest. You just can't relax. And you're always on edge because you're looking at the news and you're reading about this bombing and that bombing and this war and that war and this rumor of war and these two countries hate each other and these two countries just hit each other, and it just never ends. And you can never rest, ever. Never rest. And I wish that life was just focused on video games. You know, I wish that life was just people talking about the next big game. And, you know, Resident Evil 9 is going to be coming out in February, and I'm looking forward to that. That's if I'm still alive, God willing. And the world hasn't gone completely chaotic. But, you know, I wish life was just arguing over which is the best console or which is the best game. But it's not. It's not. Life is just waking up and then hoping to God that the news is not going to be terrifying and disastrous. Because every day you wake up, you don't know what kind of horrific news you're going to get. Every day is a battle with yourself and with your fears. And every day is a possibility where you're going to have to face something truly horrifying. I still don't get how Germany could revert to its 1940s self, given that every Western country is under the thumb of Israel. See, that's where you're wrong. That's where you're wrong. Israel is a country that is dependent on the United States. America's thumb is on Israel. America's thumb is on Israel. Now, you could say that if we were living back in the days after World War I, you could have said, I don't see how, and people were actually saying this, by the way, you could have said, I just can't see Germany killing the Jews because so many Jewish people are living in Germany and a lot of them are rich and some of the wealthiest people in the world are German Jews. And look, there's no country in the world that treats Jews better than Germany. There was no society in the Western world where Jews were as prosperous as they were in Germany. And you could have made that argument. And you know what? You would have been wrong. You would have been wrong because truly, truly, the future will always shock us. And truly, truly, truth is stranger than any fiction. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. I've been here for an hour, guys. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. I just thought that I would talk about it now because it is sort of an urgent story. So I thought I would give some of my thoughts on that. But tomorrow we will resume this conversation, and we'll have a lot more to talk about. I'm going to spend hours reading up on this and reading about any sort of new installments that's going to happen. And that's it. Anyway, There you go. Yes, but the post-war regime learned from World War II, and the ideology of modern world is based. Yeah, but you see, here's the thing: the one thing that we learn from history is that people don't learn from history. The one thing that we learn from history is that people do not learn from history. And if you want to see a real life demonstration of what I'm talking about, just look at Germany today and see what's the second biggest party in that country, and look at all of the current discourse that's going on in Germany in regards to bringing back German militarism. It's huge. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless you guys. Be well. See you guys later. See you guys tomorrow, actually. I'll see you guys tomorrow. See you later. Refined Canine, Utkarsh, Catherine, Phil, Scoob, Josh, and everyone else that I missed. God bless you guys. Be well. No one cares about history. Absolutely. That's 100% true. All right, I'll see you guys later. I'll see you guys for tomorrow's stream. God bless you guys. And you guys just heard some theology. God bless.